Hey sisters, how are you? I am coming on a little bit later than I thought I was today. Just getting ready for the holidays, and I had an accident this afternoon. It was actually perfect because it really played into what I originally wanted to pop on here and share after a couple messages I received last night and then also this morning around the heaviness and feeling of wanting to check in with sisters that are struggling, like even more so than maybe what we want to do on the page. And it's extremely kind and extremely sweet when, as I shared with all of you, you will fall in love with each other. Just like we always joke at our live events when it's the co-ed events, that you will fall in love many, many times. Like every practice partner you could fall in love with. It's quite beautiful, including the partner that you're with. Because the beauty of it is that the more that you're revealing, right? The more that you're revealing, the more that your heart is open, the more there's more of you to love. And so even in those messy, crunchy times, as you're teasing things apart and showing up fully, hi there, showing up fully and allowing yourself to truly, take this to the next step, we are witnessing you and falling again more and more in love with you. The reason why things are stacked the way they're stacked, and now you're on the judgments and withholds, is that by now, even after just a few weeks of doing this work in this capacity, you are more and more and more aware about, the way you view the world and potentially the way the world's viewing you. So what does my dog have to do with any of this? So Lunabelle is one of my corgis, and I, as I mentioned, as I was first logging in, this came from me wanting to comment around some of you who have asked after our movement class our office hours last night, our sister circle, but even before that, like, what do you do when your heart is so full for some of these sisters and you want to make sure that they're okay, and you're asking me, the team, how do you show up for them, and also just making sure that I'm essentially taking care of them too. And I don't take offense to it. I find it actually quite beautiful, and it's been a great teaching moment. And I thought I might bring it all to here for all of you, is that check in with yourself, because where else in your life are you not just holding space by allowing your energy and your love alone and your attitude towards them be enough, if there needs to be more. And so, and I can say, by the way, just like me, because I know when I started doing this type of work, especially after being in a more heady space of working with Tony for so long and some other teachers of mine, I started getting my feeling body, and it was like, holy crap moment. My son didn't understand why I was so much more emotional. My partner at the time couldn't handle it, right? And so a lot of you, are experiencing that, where your family's looking at you as if there's something going on. Well, there is, right? And we can say it's the moon, it's the winter solstice, and all of that, all of that is true. And what's happening? You're just simply starting to be able to feel more. And it is beautiful. And I don't want you to stop. I don't want you to stop one iota. This is also about that time, by the way, when you start realizing that whatever's been going on in your life probably has something to do with you. Like, really has something to do with you. And there's a video that I recorded for a former sisterhood that really is going to play, and I'll tag y'all underneath this particular video. And so what does that mean? So really, what if it means nothing? What if it simply means that you're just allowing yourself to feel deeply into those crevices that, quite frankly, haven't felt in a long time? Now, many of you, we did the little girl practice for movement. So a lot of you are practicing in that space. You're playing into what it feels like to live within your little girl. You've named your little girl. We're not done with her yet. You're not going to be done with her for the rest of your life. Trust me after this. But there's something that I want you to do is just allow yourself, as you're getting ready for the holidays, for you that observe Christmas, and even for some of you that observed Hanukkah before now, I know Hanukkah is over, but can you basically wrap yourself a little Cersei? Again, that's a southern term for a little surprise, by the way. Wrap yourself up a little present and put it under the tree. Put it in a closet. Put it somewhere where on the name tag you actually name your little girl. Okay? And so we can always be in this place of wonder. This place of wonder. Coming up very soon in another module, we're going to be digging into why you do what you do and really attaching us from a more healing perspective around your little girl. But for now, what if you can just accept that you're just feeling more? And that's really it. Now, yes, you're pushing up against some things. Of course you are. And I want to also share that for many of you that have reached out, to Audra, to Client Success, about whether it's the situation where, you might be ready to leave your partner, or you're ready for a partner, or you want to make sure a sister's okay. Or there's a lot of things that have happened that have come through Client Success, which is managed by my team, by the way. It's not my personal email. And so I'm just going to say, if you're not a one-on-one client, and even if you are, and many of you that are one-on-one with me, you'll know I'll say, please take it back to the page, because there's something to be said about being witnessed. It goes back to AAA, right? Awareness, acknowledgement, and then acceptance, and what happens in the quantum field. So again, I just want to stress that take a deep exhale. Appreciate, what you're doing right now. Appreciate that the world is looking at you, whether your world is super big or your world is super small, and they're wondering, what's going on? Like, what's different about you? So play into the stage of communication and go like, what, me? I mean, you've noticed something different? Really? Fascinating. Can you tell me more about that? And can you tell me more about that? Really? Okay. Is it something that you really are liking, or or maybe even used what I'm making up that maybe this is making you uncomfortable, or I'm making up that you kind of like it. And practice with your family what we're using here, because these tools that I'm sharing with you are not just things that I want you to use here within the sisterhood. They really are things that I know I use in my everyday life. So, again, I want to say, for all of you that are deeply falling in love with your sisters, kudos to you. And kudos to you for actually coming to the page and actually, just observing. Because there's absolutely nothing wrong with, making a video and just doing something like this. Gosh. Joni, I just love witnessing you. I just love your heart, and I just wanted you to know it. Done, right? And I want even more of you right now, and is to actually allow yourself to do more video. Allow yourself to be seen. There's something that happens with the nervous system when you allow yourself to be witnessed, especially eye to eye. So again, it's okay just to admire her beauty, just for being her, but do it in a video space. So again, I'm going to back up. Any of you that have, sent messages to the team asking questions about your particular situation, what's going on in your personal life, there is nothing you cannot bring to the page. It is a safe space. I have had women that are having affairs. I've had women that have been being abused, and we had to they decided that they were going to leave. We've had situations where a woman has decided to keep a baby from the person she was having an affair with. There's someone who's decided that she's going to have an abortion. There's so much here, and that's more of the darker side, right? You don't have to just celebrate all the things that are celebratory in the happy sense, because God will make everything for the good, everything. And so allowing us to tease it apart here will be helpful. Now, if you want to schedule a theta session, you can go in the guide, and then you can schedule a theta session, use the code to get your Sacred Sheet discount, and then we could do a theta session around anything that's coming up for you. But I just want to share that, bring it here. And if you're feeling nervous about that, then I would just ask that you maybe tag me, tag the assistants, maybe a sister or two that you feel close to, and go, oh, I'm feeling scared. I want to share something, but I'm scared. And then allow your nervous system to stretch a little bit. Kind of like when I don't know about y'all, but when I was, training Cameron to sleep through the night, I didn't just throw him in the crib and close the door and didn't check in with him. I did this slow, slow breakaway, right? Over the course of a few weeks for him to sleep through the night. Now, some of you may not agree with that. That's okay too. But again, what I want to do is not re-traumatize any wounds. What I want to do is actually really lean into a slow stretch. And that's why we practice. You've even noticed for some of the sirens, that did the sisterhood with me in the past and worked with me for a while, as they have kind of gotten a little bit sloppy with their daily practice, they're coming back in like, oh, wow, you know what? I'm understanding now why it's so important to be present, to be here, because how we do anything, right, is how we do everything. And so, again, what does Lunabelle getting bit have to do with me? Because what happened is that I was making a grocery list, to prep for our family coming in town. And I could hear the dogs going at it. And it is a trigger response from when Lunabelle was brought home a few years ago. My older dog, Walker, who has now passed, he actually, who's never been violent in his life, trotted across the room, old, arthritic, and he bit this 10-week-old puppy, like right here. And so Lunabelle has like this little third eye thing going on. Now she's 2 years old now, and she's healed from that. But hearing her squeal, hearing her in pain, taking her to the vet that night, and the trauma, I mean, it was a lot. So when I would hear that, hear that squeal and that squeak and the thing, because basically she was just going at it with Lucas and our other dog, and they'd be fine. But I have a habit when I hear it is to throw my body, I mean literally throw my body in the middle of it, versus like toss a sock, toss a toy. I'll trust that they're going to be okay. And today I actually walked over and I didn't have anything to throw, and so I used my leg. And so I thought maybe, and then I fell on the ground. And you know what? I basically was the dog trainer even said they will figure it out. It is okay. They know how to, use their teeth just enough, and with the scruff of their neck, right? And enough fat and enough fur, they know what they're doing. They are dogs. You are a human. And so this is my own shit, right? Not the dog's. And I threw myself in the middle of it, and I won't show you, but it's kind of icky. And as y'all know, I'm a theta healing practitioner, and I just did plants and animals. And so later what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, go up to the seventh plane and do some healing around that, because clearly I still have a trigger around hearing it. I can be at a dog park and hear the sounds of dogs fighting, and it just, it really kicks in. Oh, is everything going to be okay? What do I need to do? Where can I step in? I want to check and micromanage, and and it's coming from the beautiful heart that God's given me, but it's also me stepping in and not letting them handle it, right? And letting them have their own experience. And that's how they're going to learn, right? That's how they're going to learn, is by going through that. It is hard as hell, but I can tell you that today, as I have holes in my shin, I learned my lesson. And trust me, John was happy to let me know that this is not the first time this has happened. They never bit me, but I've had some bruises and stuff for throwing myself on the ground. So again, if this brings up something, you have more questions around it, I'm not asking you to be cold at all. And this is something I want to mention too, is I remember when I was doing more masculine personal development work, I mean, most personal development is masculine, right? Let's face it. And I can remember when I started working on my feminine essence, my feminine. I can remember, being trained by Tony. If you've ever been to one of his events, you talk about anchoring something in. Like, do you want to anchor something in? And one of the things that we're trained to do in interventions is actually not go over to the person and touch them, hug them, bring them in when they're very, very upset. Now, obviously, there's some variations to this, but overall, the arc is you want people to have their own experience while you're observing them, while you're witnessing them, making sure they're not going to injure themselves, but allowing them to have the experience, and then you help them process it. It's magical. It's one reason why I really love it. Love Sister Circle, right? Like we did last night. And also when you raise your hand and you ask questions, because one of the things I love and my strengths is to take a question, tease it apart, and us coach on the spot and anchor in something, a new experience with a new emotion, with an up-leveling of energy where you're claiming your energy state. And that's why you are selling yourself short if you don't ask the question, right? So anyway, what we've been taught is that you don't want to anchor this in. So the same thing if you understand when a hypochondriac is born. They're sick a lot. And it generally starts with that they actually got attention from being ill. A comedian is born when they've made enough people laugh, and then all of a sudden they anchor in that they actually need to be making people laugh to get love, for example. So what we want to do is make sure that people are having their own experience. Now, y'all aren't here to coach, right? That's my responsibility. But I'm also, sharing this with you because these are life's lessons where you allow someone to have their experience. Now, I'm going to keep telling the story because when I had one of my first events where we were doing movement, it was, 5 years ago, and it was a small event. It was only 8 women, and it was a very exclusive event, and there were 8 women there, and many of these women came from the Tony world. And again, like I said, a lot of the women from that space are super masculine, but they're deciding they want to melt a little bit the edges because they keep having the same problems in their relationships, right? So as I was moving with one of the sisters, she collapsed on the floor and was really having a meltdown in a beautiful way. We call it shattering. You'll hear me use that term. She was shattering. And I would watch as the other women mortified, like watching in they had their own, on their mat. They were on their mat. And they told us later, mortified. They didn't know what to do because as they were become undone from doing the work with me over that weekend, their hearts were opening. They weren't so judgmental about another woman, right? They were healing their feminine and their masculine, so they were feeling more. And so their nurturing side was coming out, and they wanted to, lean in, but they had been told, in this other world to really not. They took it so toxic masculine, like the rule was the rule and you never deviate from the rule. Never allowing themselves to feel into their heart, right? And so it was such a healing moment for many of the women there because what that did is that as this beautiful sister was on the ground and she's sobbing, she looked up and she, through her beautiful tears and snot bubbles and all that, she's like, I really want to be held. Will you please hold me? And I coached her to breathe into it. I mean, she's on the ground. We're all on the ground to breathe into it. And I'm touching her back, and I said, baby, just take a breath. Take a breath. And I could feel her heart was so open. And I asked the other women, and I said, will you come and be with your sister and do like a cuddle puddle? The resistance was strong, like really strong. And so some of you are probably thinking, that is nuts. Well, what this did is it triggered their daddy wounds, mama wounds, a mama not picking them up from school, being told they're too much for crying, right? Do you know what I'm saying? And it was a great lesson in feeling into, is someone's heart open or closed? Is this someone that you judge to be someone who's doing it for attention? Can you allow yourself to lean in a little bit more? And so it became this space where the other women came around this woman, and a couple of the women wouldn't come to the closer circle. They stayed on the outer circle. And that became their work on how can they actually show up with compassion, without actually giving away everything, allowing people to have their own experience, because that's what this is about. And so, can you allow yourself to love so freely, so fully, and allow people to have their own experience? Does that make sense? So I really would love to, I know as we go into the weekend, I would really love to give you some downloads. And so for any of you that are watching live now, or you watch the replay, all you have to do when I do this is that you'll just say yes. You'll just say yes. And if you find that, you're still having a hard time experiencing the feelings, because we can only download feelings. The belief work we would have to do in a theta session where we are muscle testing and these other things. But a lot of times something will be resolved by downloading an emotion and downloading a feeling. And so I wanted to kind of wrap up that other piece around, feeling into what it feels like to actually just be. To trust that maybe there's nothing wrong. To also trust that, for anyone watching the replay years from now, this is year 2021. It is that time where, your liver and your gallbladder have probably been working overtime. And not because you've been drinking. What I know is I just came back from my acupuncturist too today, and we were talking about, this channel, especially that gallbladder channel, that meridian that runs through much of your body. And the gallbladder is, a representation of not making decisions or living in a lot of uncertainty. And there's a lot of uncertainty going on in the world right now. So whether you're in the sisterhood, because you're determined, is your relationship on, off, maybe you've been turned down about getting together for the holidays because you are vaccinated or you're not vaccinated. Maybe you are, maybe you are, maybe you are, maybe you are. Again, go back to some of the things I've been sharing, to live in the duality and not have to figure it all out, not have to process it to death. We don't want to eat processed food. We also don't want to process our body to the point where we are just metabolizing so much that we're not allowing it to get anchored in and sink in. Because the emotions, right? The emotions will allow us to mature. The emotions will allow us to actually, latch on to a more compelling future we want to create. So if you would like to know what it feels like to be able to be in a relationship without having to bring in the other person's emotions as if they were your own, say yes. And then you just close your eyes. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It is done. And would you like to know what it feels like to be able to reveal your emotions freely? Period. Would you like to know? If that's a yes, say yes. And then close your eyes. And would you like to know what it feels like to be able to be witnessed with a group of women and not worry if they like you or not? Can you live without the belief of worrying if they like you or not? And if that's a yes, let's close your eyes. Thank you. It is done. It is done. It's done. And do I have your permission to download Creator's Unconditional Love through every cell of your body. Thank you. So, we all are here. God has given us these great gifts, and to use the Creator, use Source, use energy, use God, use universe, whatever that is for you, and to heal. And then also, sometimes to heal is just to be. And again, I just want to stress that allow yourself to lean into the practices. And if I've given you individual practice, allow yourself to lean into that. And if you notice that one of your sisters, the best thing you can do to care for a sister in that space is that you actually love her level 3. And you actually ask permission, can I offer a reflection? Can I do this? And then I'm making up that you're a woman who really wants to get to the other side, right? And that you're scared to do the practices Sandy's given you, or whatever that is for you. And then you find a part that's just like yourself, and you say, just like me. That is what will help your sisters more than anything, because there is a bird's eye view, that Google map view through the heart, that you are allowing yourself to view her and not letting her get away with her old stuff. Doesn't mean that you're not caring. And it doesn't mean you're not nurturing. It doesn't mean that you don't cuddle puddle either. It just means that there's something really magnificent about this way to love. It can be firm sometimes. It may not always feel gooey, but it's how you anchor in and start building in trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your masculine, trust in another masculine, which is why the masculine cleanse is not just about not having sex. It's really about, understanding the masculine in general. Okay? I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're committed to yourself. And I hope this helps clear up any questions or concerns that you may be feeling. And if you have any questions about how do I use these tools in this situation, just ask. And by the way, if you find that your assistants, Carrie, Angie, and me, in this space, if we're not getting back to you soon enough, use your stage 3 theater and let us know. I mean, we're human, and Facebook's Facebook, and sometimes we miss things, right? Our life's going to happen. So practice with us if you feel like we dropped the ball or we let you down, right? And your other sisters as well. This is your playground. So come and play. All right. Good night. I look forward to seeing you here on all the things. And for many of you, I just want to remind you that to save the date for the weekend of Valentine's, because we are going to be having a sisterhood event here in St. Pete. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you live again, if I've already met you live, and if not, I can't wait. All right. Good night.